are lots of Indian Muslims who don't need to prove their loyalty to the Indian nation. They have been stalwarts of this nation. Najib Jung, former Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, former Vice Chancellor of Jamia Millia, joins me. Wajat Habibullah is someone who served as a very distinguished officer both in the Prime Minister's office and in Jammu and Kashmir. And I want to come to you, Wajat Habibullah, because you know Kashmir better than most. We are seeing this outpouring on the streets also of Kashmir of anger, in a way, against Pakistan and this violence. Do you believe, as Asaduddin Owaisi told me, there's a ray of light? This is a moment of hope for Kashmir to strike back?
Kashmir to strike back? I mean, I don't quite see the point of your question. What is Kashmir,
Kashmir
to
to
strike
unite.
back about?
Kashmir
this is a
united.
Terrorist attack.
Kashmir uniting against terror.
Well, Kashmir is united. The Kashmir has been united for a very long time. They have also stood against terror for a very long time. And if you didn't want to notice it, then that's another point of view altogether. But the fact
We
is
haven't
that they
seen
have
Kashmiris,
been
with due regard, sir.
With due regard,
sir, sorry to interrupt. We haven't seen Kashmiris come out in the street as spontaneously and organically as they have come out this time. Something seems to have changed.
No, I don't think so at all. This time also and earlier also, they have had this opposition to this kind of violent terrorism, and this particular time it has become easily manifest. But I have written on this in the Wire, as you would have seen, and I've actually quoted the Kashmiris as to what their attitudes are. These attitudes have not changed. They have been like that for a long time. They have now found voice. That is a good thing, certainly. But the point is that it is not only a question of a protest against what Pakistan has done. There has been a major security breach in Jammu and Kashmir. Or don't you understand that? We know for a long time, and as Owaisi has pointed out, Kashmir, this is not the first time that there has been a terrorist attack by Pakistan. And we know that Jammu and Kashmir has been the focus of their terrorist activities. And I've written this in this article also. So that is one aspect. We have to take the matter up with Pakistan, and the government of India is taking it up. Now, one may discuss whether they're doing enough or not doing enough, but certainly they've taken it up and they've identified the problem. There is no point in Pakistan trying to deny connivance or responsibility for what has happened, because these actions take place in Kashmir only if they originate in Pakistan. It may not be the Pakistan government, it may be something else, but the Pakistan government should then come forward and prove its honesty by actually finding out who were the perpetrators, who organized this, and go on. That is that aspect. But on the other hand, shouldn't we be examining ourselves why we let this happen? There were no security personnel at all present in the area where the terrorist attack took place. Not only that, when the terrorist attack took place, there were no security personnel at all to assist those poor tourists and others who were rushing out. Who were the people assisting them? Only the Kashmiris. Mind you, only the Kashmiris. The hoteliers, the restaurateurs, they provided them food, they conducted them to their vehicles, they took them to the airport, had them board the plane. And what was the response of the airlines? They hiked their fares. Now, please understand what the responsibility is. Please let us see. Now, we will, of course, take Pakistan to task for what they have done. But let us also examine where we have failed, or shouldn't we?
Okay. Fair point, Mr. Habibullah. You believe that there must be also accountability for security lapses, not just
of course.
sort of absolutely.
Of course. Now please
taken.
remember, Rajit, if I may interrupt you again, if I may interrupt you here, you know when there was a train accident in the time that Lal Bahadur Shastri was railway minister. Now the railway minister was not driving the train. The railway minister was in no way responsible for actually the accident itself. But the railway minister resigned. Any action taken, even against a Thanedar?
Can I at this point bring in Najib Jung? Najib Jung, there's one aspect that Wajat Habibullah has raised, saying, look, do not ignore the security lapses that took place, fix responsibility. The other aspect which I discussed with Asaduddin Owaisi, which is troubling at one level, every time a terror attack, particularly of this kind, where victims were identified by their religious identity, leads suddenly Indian Muslims to have to prove their quote-unquote loyalty. Does that trouble you, anger you? What's the way forward?
Rajdeep, permit me, before I answer this question, I want to take you back to what you asked Owaisi Saab, that what would his reaction be if Asif Munir was sitting in front of him. And my reaction to that, I want to put on television, is that I would tell him on his face that he is a big donkey and an ass of the first order, that his efforts to put a divide between Hindus and Muslims in India are rather crude, and that he will indeed get a befitting reply from the Indian side. That is one. I have said before, and I am not ashamed to say that Indian Muslims are often put to test. In fact, after every such incident, Indian Muslims are made to put to test. And sometimes we see reactions from Muslims which are overdone. Not necessarily, because I say that, like Owaisi Saab said, that when I joined service, I swore an oath to the Constitution of India. I forget my identity as a Muslim, but I remain an Indian wedded to the Constitution. I do not forget my religion, that is at my home. So to put the Indian Muslims to test is to shame India. And that, unfortunately, is the direct attempt of Asif Munir. And in many places, as Owaisi Saab pointed out, we have fallen into the trap. It is a classical trap which is going on for years and years and years. It's 100 years of efforts to put a Hindu-Muslim divide amongst us. To Indian Muslims, I will tell you, who stayed back. And let me quote Maulana Azad, who gave a speech on the steps of the Jama Masjid in 1943 to Indian Muslims. Permit me to say that in Urdu. And he said, कि याद रखो कि 2000 साल पहले तुम्हारे कारवान इसी जमुना नदी पे आए थे और यहीं तुमने वजू किया था, यही तुम्हारा मुल्क है. And those are the Indians who stayed back. Not as Owaisi Saab said, there was a lot of Jagirdars and rulers, etc., who were doubtful whether they could compete with the Hindus in India who are more educated. The cause of partition is different. And these Indian Muslims who stayed back on their own volition. They have proved their mettle in sports, they have proved their mettle in soldiery, they have proved their mettle in services, and therefore, to ask them what, I am sorry to hear Mr. Indresh Kumar talk nonsense. He has no business to advise Indian Muslims. He does not know Islam. You know, if a person dies, an enemy or non-enemy, if he's in front of me, I will bury him. I don't care who he is. That's his right for a burial. And Indresh is the last man to advise Indian Muslims on how they should behave. Indian Muslims will remain Indian Muslims. And the government of India, I'm really glad, has asked Owaisi Saab to come for this. And we've heard Umar Abdullah. His respect in my eyes goes up enormously. I mean, here is a leader who has really come out in his assembly and challenged everybody that do not challenge either Kashmiri Muslims or Indian Muslims. So that's my take on this.
Very, very strong words used both towards message to General Asif Munir and the likes of Indresh Kumar from you there, Najib Jung. Wajat Habibullah, as the reference was made to Omar Abdullah's speech, coming out very strongly, because there have been Kashmiris who've also felt over the years that they have been subject to collective punishment in a way for what has happened in Kashmir over the last 30 years. Do you believe that also is a major factor, that somewhere down the line now, for much too long, Indians have seen Kashmiri Muslims in particular with an eye of suspicion, and this tragic terror attack needs to heal and bridge certain divides?
Well, you see, this is unfortunately a part of that. So far as the Pakistani strategy is concerned, quite clearly, the very fact that these terrorists actually threatened the persons asking them whether they're Hindus or not, was an effort designed to bring division between India's people. As Najib says, we are not a different people. Whether we are Hindus or Muslims is a question of faith. We are exactly the same people. But this division has been caused, and as he pointed out, over 100 years this has been built up. And Pakistan is playing on that. And we are falling prey to it, comfortably. The question is,
there's a message also here to, there's a message also here to those, there is a message also here to those who mix religion with politics. Am I clear? That's the last thing you want to see is those in power in any part of this country
Correct.
mixing religion with politics and demonizing a community.
Is that me or Rojhan bhai?
Entirely, because the point is, these actions have nothing to do with politics. These matters have nothing to do with religion. None of the tourists over there was indulging in any particular religious practice. They would have had their own religious rights or whatever they had on their own. But it was not a public, nothing of that kind of thing, but it was deliberately drawn. And this is not the first time it has happened. That's why I was telling you that the Kashmiris have resented this for a long time. For a long time, we know what happened with the exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits in the early 90s. I was commissioner of Kashmir at the time, not at the time the exodus took place, but shortly thereafter. This was all actually generated and actually designed by our friends across the border. But the question is, and this was to create a religious divide, to strengthen them. And we fall victim to it. We are
we did.
Then this kind of thing.
The Pandits is a more...
That's right.
Sure, the Pandits though is a more contentious issue where Kashmiri locals should have worked to stop the exodus.
So let us not raise that issue now.
Yeah, we need to look forward.
They should have. I'm telling you, but let us not go into that now, because that is not the subject of this discussion. I'm saying this is what I was only mentioning, that this is not the first time they've tried to do this.
Sure.
We are used to this fact. Why don't we realize this fact? Why don't we realize this fact? And these kind of actions are designed to create divisions in Indian society. Why should we fall prey to it every time? Why should people like Indresh and all actually be showing that they have bought the Pakistani idea?
I take your point. The fact is, though, a large number of Indians have rejected, Indian Muslims and Indian Hindus are rejecting the idea that an Asim Munir can put up a two-nation theory. Therefore, Najib Jung, should we be looking at the glass as half full as well? That this is a moment where India is showing how it is different to Pakistan.
Yes, Rajdeep. The point is the first thing that you asked, Wajahat Saab, which is that can we separate the state from religion? And that's an endeavor that the government of India must do, because I'm afraid that the role that the government of India should have played in the last 10 years, that has not happened. I mean, we have often seen at the highest echelons efforts being made to divide communities. So obviously, the glass is half full, and we should take this opportunity to really fill it up, because this is a time to show all people across India, the right and the left and the centrists, that India can be united. We are united in a time of this enormous tragedy. And so why do we wait to unite ourselves only in times of tragedy? Can't we enjoy brotherhood again as we did when we were children, when you and I were children, when we celebrated Eid and Holi together, when our mohallas lived together, when we did candlelight marches together in case of a tragedy? Why can't we be again the same country? So this glass is half full today. Let's take this opportunity. Let's welcome the Kashmiri with open arms. And while
we welcome the Kashmiris with open arms, presumably those Kashmiris who have in the past flirted with militancy or have helped the militants, the terrorists are those, I don't call them militants, they are terrorists, are those who also need to be singled out and punished, but don't have collective punishment for all Kashmiris. Am I correct?
You are absolutely right. I have no doubt that there is a local element in Kashmir. We all know it, who are sympathetic to the other side. They also have to be won over or singled out and punished. But to sort of capture 1,500 people today, as we have done in Kashmir, or to burn houses, etc., without a legal process of law, I think that will upset the Kashmiri psyche much more. We should be a little subdued in that and thoughtful in that. As the government of India is being vis-a-vis thinking over action in Pakistan. I mean, it's 5 days, but we see meeting after meeting. Obviously, the government of India is giving a very hard thought on how they should react to Kashmir after the first really solid blow of putting in abeyance the Indus Waters Treaty.
Right. So what, in a way, what you're saying is no collective punishment. We don't need bulldozer or bomb justice. What we need is those responsible are identified, whether they are local Kashmiris or those across the border, ensure maximum punishment to them. But the last thing we need is to single out or demonize a community. The strength of India, the remarkable strength of India lies in its ability to bridge divides between communities. Do not allow those outside this country to divide us, and send out a firm message to the likes of General Asim Munir, who talks still of a two-nation theory. Wajat Habibullah and Najib Jung, for coming on my program and speaking with such clarity. I appreciate both of you joining me. Thank you so much.